Hello, I'm Volley from Ventana Row. I was thinking that I would say all of my paranormal experiences in a video just for fun, also for me to remember because I feel like I'm starting to forget some shit. Start at the very, very beginning. The smallest little thing that I noticed when I was in elementary school. I would sometimes go near this fence that was it was like where the playground was, and basically it was a fence going into somebody's like giant ass, rich ass backyard where it was like basically woods. And I would go to that fence and I would like sense a presence and shit. Super weird, don't know why. That was like the first thing. I would like sense these like two kids, and like I could remember like talking to them. Very weird shit. Barely paranormal, but that's like the first thing. Second thing is that I used to try to read kids' minds in in the parking lot of where I lived. Also same time period. There were these neighborhood kids, and I would try to read their minds, and I was actually pretty good at it. It was weird because when I tried to read numbers, that was when I got it almost every time. It was when it got more like complicated, like colors and actual words. I couldn't do it. But after that, not much. Just kind of like different like mental illness stuff, I guess. I don't know. I'm like embarrassing myself right now, but I'm just gonna do it all the way through. Flash forward to me getting kicked out of my parents' house when I was like 19. This is when like the craziest shit started happening about this age. I was in the bathroom at my friend's house who was letting me stay there, and I felt like somebody was looking at me, and I was in the shower showering, and I looked to my right, and there's a fucking shadow man. One of those ones, you know what I mean, with the hat. Before I knew about that shit. It was only half of his body, you know. It was like from the torso up. Super weird, like the way that shadow people are. They're like solid, but a shadow. Like you could see through them, but you could tell that there's like a thickness there. Yeah, and it just looked at me, and I looked at it, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then it lunged at me, like that shit. Fucked up, and I screamed, and I ran out of the bathroom. It went right through me. It did. It actually, like, it went through me, and I felt it. Felt like, I don't know. Didn't feel super crazy. It just felt like nasty wind, almost. I don't know how to explain it. Like, it definitely felt like wind, first of all. But second of all, there was, like, this feeling of, like, I don't know. It's a nasty feeling, you know, emotional. Yeah, so I ran out of the room, and I asked the people about, you know, is there any like weird shit? And that was like the beginning of me being like into paranormal shit. Looked up about shadow people and was like super shocked to find that there's like a million different people who have seen that exact same shit. That's, you know, my guy was wearing like a bowler hat that was like longer though. It's like this tall rather than like this. And yeah, it was weird. But anyways, next thing that happened, I would probably say, was me starting to have these weird visions and shit. That was the last thing for a while, and then I started meditating a lot. And the more I meditated, the more crazy shit would happen. Oh, I'm skipping over some shit, I guess. I'm going to. I mean, there was like the time where I got kidnapped, and when I was in the room with these guys who had kidnapped me, they all fell asleep, like all of them. There was like 2 dudes and like 3 chicks, and like they all fell asleep at the same time, which was really weird. But because they were supposed to be keeping guard on me, but so I was just scared. I wanted to leave, so then I like went into the bathroom, and I closed the door loud to see if they would wake up. And they didn't. And this is just like a hotel room, by the way. It's like one room. There's like 3 beds. Everybody was sleeping on a bed. Yeah, so I slammed the door and I looked out and nobody woke up. And then I just was like, okay. And then I fucking opened the door and like ran out. And I left the door open. Didn't want to wake them up still. And I got out pretty far before I realized they were chasing me. But it was just weird that they didn't wake up when I slammed the door. Like, I was trying to see if they'll wake up. I mean, I'm glad they didn't, but that was like another weird thing. But yeah, after that whole situation, I started doing a bunch of meditation. That's where shit got really crazy, because then the more that I meditated, the more that I saw shit and heard shit and felt shit. It kind of started with like homeless people, while I was working, would just go in the front of the store and look at me through the window, which is really weird. They just stare at me, and like in my soul, I just felt like they needed me to heal them or some shit. I don't know. I was like on a super spiritual hype. And so I would like look out and like try to heal them. And then they would walk away after a while, and it seemed like it worked. I mean, they would kept coming back. So obviously if it did do anything, it wasn't permanent. That was kind of like a whole era where people would just come up to me and kind of just ask me for healing without talking to me. Very weird. During that time, I would walk around everywhere all the time. I was always like, playing songs, like just busking outside or reading tarot or blah, blah, blah. I was always like, doing different forms of meditation and shit. And this one time I was walking down the street, and I saw this like white cat, like a fluffy white cat, and it started running up to me from like hella far away. Like it was walking, and then I saw it, and then it started running. And that happened a lot. But this particular cat, when it got up to me, I was like, hey, kitty, what's wrong? And then because I just had this feeling that it was hurt or something. And then I went to rub its belly, and its belly was all bloodied up, like fucked up. And yeah, it was really weird. And I was like, oh my God, but the cat wasn't acting like it was hurt, and I guess cats do that sometimes, but it was a lot of fucking blood. So, and only on the stomach too. Like, what kind of fight was that? So, whatever. So I ended up, trying to get the cat to go to this house right there, because I figured maybe it was like they knew the cat or something. So I went up to this, like, it's like a Victorian style house, and I kind of called the cat with me. I didn't pick up the cat, but the cat followed me up to the steps. So, like I said, like, cats would like follow me and shit. Super fucking weird. The cat followed me up the steps. I knocked on the door and shit. And the people, it was like this old couple, just this like dude and this girl. And they answered the door, and they were like, who the fuck are you? And I was like, hey, this cat's like bleeding, and I don't know if you know about this cat. And they were like, oh. And then they just took the cat. I don't know if they knew the cat, but they took the cat. And that was that. That was like a weird thing. And yeah, a lot of cats like running up to me and shit like that. There's another cat story, not wanting me to help it. I don't fucking know what happened. But basically, I was hanging out with my homie, who's like pretty spiritual as well. And we were on the top deck of her house, and there's like stairs, hella stairs going down. There's like 2 stories of stairs going down to the street, right? So we were on that deck, and all of a sudden we were talking, and in the middle of us talking, I just had this like really fucked up feeling. Like I was like, oh God. And then I looked straight ahead. There was this fucking black cat, and it was fucking looking at me, and like it like meowed in this way. And then it fucking just started running like up the fucking steps, like towards me. And I was super scared. Like, I just knew that this cat was just bad. I don't know why. Like I love black cats. It's not superstition. It was just like this particular cat. And I told, I was telling my homie, I'm like, dude, this is not good. And like freaking out. And my homie was like, stop, like to the cat, like, stop. And the cat just stopped and just was staring at me. And then I started yelling at it. I was like, go away, because I just got such a weird vibe from this cat. Like I don't know about shift shapers, whatever you shapeshifters, yeah. I don't know about that shit, but it seemed like that was the vibe. It was like this weird thing. Sometimes certain animals I notice, I'll see, especially cats, but I'll see that they have this like kind of like this shake around them, like right here, like where it goes like this, like there's like an energy field around them, and then they kind of move like snakes. It's, yeah, certain times cats get like that, and I don't know what it means or anything, or if I'm just psycho, but anyway, so then the cat left, and it was super freaky. Like the cat, just went back down the steps. It was weird. I have no idea. So yeah, a lot of weird shit with cats. Just cats just coming up to me and just listening to me when I tell them to do shit, just that kind of shit. And then there was this one time where I was doing my tarot, and at the time I think I was like 20 or 21, and I was like, all right, like who the fuck is like in charge of these tarot cards? Like, I guess at the time I just didn't know, like, because I came from Christianity, so I was like, okay, is there some spirit that guides these cards? Like, is it like a god, or is it, and I was just kind of like, who is it? So I was asking that question and trying to see through the cards when, similar to the last shadow person, I felt somebody looking at me, and I looked up, and I'm in this parking lot. I'm sitting on a curb, and I look up, and there's these houses right here, and these houses are like this tall, and there's a shadow Grim Reaper this tall, and it was like a Grim Reaper but without the fucking Reaper thingy, the scythe. Yeah, and it was just going like this. It was doing this shit. It was pointing, and it was pointing to my left, I guess. And yeah, that was the craziest shit, because I was like, wait, what the fuck, like you ask like what your tarot cards are being governed by, and some weird shadow being pops up. Yeah, and this thing was like doing that shaky thing that I was talking about with the cats, but it was like obviously way more because it wasn't a cat. Not obviously. Point is that so it's a shadow being, and it looks like a Grim Reaper. It's hooded, no face, and then just an arm. And actually the fingers were like almost bony, but like I said, it's a shadow creature, so it's all shadow, but you could kind of see like some bones vibes. And on the outside of it, like the edges of it, there was this red like line, like a stroke around this being that was vibrating. It was like boo, so I was like, this is happening right now, and I'm like, is this just in my head? Am I psycho? So I walk forward to try to just conquer my fear of it, and I walk forward, and it's like I realize in that moment that it's like, how when you blink and something doesn't go away, like I was doing that shit and it still was there, and I was like, all right, but like if I go closer, maybe it'll be obvious that it's like a shadow of a tree or something, you know what I mean? But it like grew in dimension the way that it would if it was a real object. Like when I go like this, like the way that you could tell that shit's real, that's how it was with that shadow creature, that Grim Reaper thing. And I just fucking told it to go away, and I ran away. And I fucking regret that to this day, because like, even though it could have been bad news, like I just hate that like I was asking who is this, and I didn't fucking, I didn't go any further than that. Like, what's the fucking point? Just wish I could have known if that shit was real or not, if it was anything. Fucking, these shadow creatures, fucking weird shit. But then what? There's like some other shit, like shit started escalating pretty bad. I would have these visions and shit. I would be meditating, and I would have like these visions. This particular one was of this guy's face. It was like this like redheaded, like freckled dude, like, And it's, you know, like how sometimes you picture something and it's not like full clarity. Like this was full clarity. Like I never seen this dude before. Know this face, right? I'm like seeing it fully. Like it's not an illusion or like a, you know, a sketch. It's like a real face. And I just had this sense of like, I need to help this person. And really, in retrospect, I'm like, I didn't need to help that person. I just didn't know what it meant. And I just assumed that shit. So I went to the beach that I was close to. And this was like afternoon, probably like 3 or 2, maybe even noon. It was like early still. It wasn't even dark at all. It's like the middle of the day. And I sat down and like I said, I was meditating before that. So I was already in a really good trance. So I went right back into meditation. And when I sat down, it was like I blinked and it was dark, like immediately, like no time passed for me. And I was kind of in a daze, like almost like I was drugged, you know what I mean? But like there was no way I was drugged because I was just chilling. I wasn't drinking anything or blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, and mind you, like all these experiences, like I was completely sober for them, like all of them. So this is, you know, but yeah, so it was dark and I was like, what the fuck? But then I was also really calm, like I was drugged or something. And so I just kind of calmly was looking around, kind of confused a little bit. And then I saw the fucking dude from the vision, like exact same dude, like face, everything, like exactly how I saw it. And I was like, oh, okay, like here's the guy that I'm supposed to help. So he's walking up and I just, you know, he's already walking towards me. So I'm just like, hey, like, what do you need? Because I just assumed, you know, and he's like, oh, cool. And then I was kind of like, what? Like, but then, you know, just moving past him, I'm like, what do you need from me? Like, and he was like, oh, you're so willing and all this weird shit. And I was starting to realize, I'm like, this guy's a creep. Like, what's going on? And I'm starting to click, oh, it's like the fucking, you know, it's like 7 or 8, 9 at night. Don't know what time it is. It's dark as shit. And I fucking started to get kind of weirded out. So I started to stand up. And I start noticing, going back to this vibrating shit, I didn't really think about it. There's a lot of vibrating shit. The dude was vibrating like this, right? But what happened is the more I looked at him while he was saying all this weird shit, he started doing this. Like that shit. Like, you know, like basic fucking demonic bullshit that they show in movies, like actually was doing that shit. And as he was doing it, I started to see there was a shadow like behind him, like this, as he's doing all the shit. And I just kind of realized, I'm like, oh, like this dude's fucking possessed or something. Or whatever. I don't know. There was like a shadow attached to him. One of those fucking shadow creature things. So, so I got pretty freaked out and I started to kind of like slowly back away and just be like, oh, fuck. And then he was talking about, basically he wanted to rape me. He thought I was just going to willingly have sex with him by the way that I was approaching the situation. Like, what can I get for you? Some pussy? Unfortunately, like, I didn't know what was going on, but he was trying to fuck. And I looked like an idiot, like, on the beach in the middle of the night, which actually, now that I remember, it ended up being like 12 or 1 in the morning. I know that because when I ran away from him, I'll continue the story. I ran away from him and I was so curious about what the fuck was going on. So I actually found somebody who was walking their dog and I was like, hey, can I stand right next to you? Like, I don't feel safe right now. Like there's some dude right there. And they're like, of course. So I chilled with them for a sec. And then the guy kind of like stayed far away, was just watching. And then I got my rollerblades on that I brought with me and I started to skate across the street. And then as I was skating, I was just kind of looking to see what the fuck he was doing. Because I was just like, what is going on? Because mind you, I still think that I had a vision. I'm supposed to like help this guy or something. I'm like, why would I have this vision of this guy's face? It would be one thing if it was a warning, right? But it was like, I wouldn't have gone to the beach and sat on the beach for that long and like zonked out. It was a weird, whatever. Point is, I was confused as fuck and I'm just watching this guy. So I'm like safe away from him. I'm like across the street. He's on the other side of the street and I'm rollerblading. And he just starts like walking like with me, like we're like this, you know, on the street. And he just starts yelling weird shit that I don't understand. And then he started saying names. And the thing that made me fucking stop being confused as much and just more like fucking freaked out was that he said this girl's name, that my sister actually got kidnapped with this girl and the girl was never found. And he said her name. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, you know, thought maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. So then I started saying, like, what do you know about her? Da 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 da, yelling it across the street. And then he pretty much just lunged at me, tried to chase me, and then I was like, fuck. So then I was like skating away, super fucking freaked out. I was like, like the way that this dude was, like, I wouldn't even be surprised if he was as fast as a fucking cheetah or something. Like, that's how fucking creepy, fucking, you know? It seemed like he was gonna fucking The Ring or some shit or whatever fucking, what's that one with the fucking kid that's like hella fast down the stairs? That one. Yeah, so that happened, and the reason I know what time it was is because I was so fucking freaked out. I skated to my parents, and I tried to get my mom to hang out with me, and they were like already in bed and shit, so it was like hella late. And yeah, I talked to her about it and shit. But what else? There's a couple more. There's like there was some shit with dreams and shit. I've had a lot of dreams that were like weird. Actually had this one dream when me and Jamie first met. And it was basically 2 dreams in a row that like they seemed more like visions than dreams the way that they were. But it was like the first one was this it was the owl. So basically when I closed my eyes, I started to see this like galaxy. And in the galaxy the stars were actually like constellations of these crabs. And it was really beautiful, and it started turning into like a wormhole kind of thing. And in the center, out of the wormhole, came this owl, this like barn owl. And yeah, it had this like, it just had this presence that it was like so beautiful and so like good, you know what I mean? That it was scary. Like that was the feeling I had, this like fear. It was just, it was just larger than life, dude. So next level. And I actually woke up from being so scared. It was really weird. And then I was like, okay, that was fucking weird. And I went back to bed. And then I had another dream immediately after where there was like this pit, very like heaven and hell vibes, but like both of them scary as fuck. There was this pit where you look down and there's just these fucking snouts with teeth, no eyes. Like they were like, they look like coyotes, but with no eyes and no like head thing. Just the snouts with like these sharp ass teeth. And they were just... And then I woke up and it was just weird. Point is that I ended up doing research on that dream, and there's like a Native American legend that talks about both of those. And that heaven is like this snowy white owl that takes everybody in, and that's how you go to heaven. And then they were talking about the pit of hell being like that. So that was really weird. It's just random shit like that. What else? Used to have a lot of like encounters with people and just like weird shit. I know there's something else. There's something else that's super weird like that. Hold on. So I just remembered what it was. It was that I used to see these things. Like I said, when I was really deep in meditation, I would go out and like go get coffee or whatever. And I remember this one time I was chilling in a cafe and I was sitting there, and the table across from me, there was like this mom, a grandma, and the daughter. His daughter was probably like 5 or 6. And the daughter was just like being "Rah!" Like just really like just out of pocket. And the weirdest part about that, which is not, that's not weird. The weird thing is that the grandma and the mom were just kind of like just not like, they just seemed like they weren't ever going to do anything about it. They were just like, they looked sick or something, you know what I mean? Both of them, like the same kind of sick. And then as I was looking at the girl, I started to see this thing, like this shadow thing, like feeding on her. And I've drawn it before, but it's like its mouth was over her head, and then its whole being was over her like that behind, but only this was covered. And what's weird about it is that it almost kind of reminded me of like a blob creature, because its arm reached out when I noticed it, and I was looking at it like, what the fuck? Its arm reached out and kind of swatted at me, like super chill, like not like scary, just was like, hey, don't fuck with my meal kind of thing. Super weird. And I started to notice that like everybody like had some kind of thing attached to them. Not everybody, but like most of the people in there. And I just kind of pushed it away. You know what I mean? Well, you probably don't know what I mean, but like my whole life I've had like kind of like these like psychic abilities that I just kind of have to push away, because like who the fuck can live like that, you know? Like if you've ever been like really like an empathetic person, and like you notice that like when people are upset around you, you get upset like a lot, like too much, like as if you're getting upset for them and yourself. That's like an empath, you know? So like I've always like had that pretty hardcore. So I've always had to learn to like push that shit away. That's why it's a lot easier to like not be close to anybody. But yeah, just that weird kind of shit where you could just push it away. That's the point. The point is that I realized that there's a whole layer of humanity like getting fed on, I guess. I don't really fucking know. I kind of, the way that I think of it, like making sense of it in my dumbass brain, is that there's like an ecosystem of energy, you know, that like human beings are like, you know, like an elephant, and like those things are the flies or something, you know what I mean? And we just feel shit, and then certain entities like feed on those kinds of feelings. And it seems like if that were true, that those entities would exert certain chemicals or something that would cause people to be more of that. You know, they go, for instance, you go to a crying kid who's kind of bratty naturally, and then you start feeding on her, and then she starts getting more and more bratty. And the weirdest, like I said, the weirdest part is that the grandma and the mom were just kind of like, they just looked sick as fuck, like they had just been through it. And it could have just been, you know, whatever, but it just seemed like it was connected. But it was that shit, you know, that extra layer that really fucked me up, like realizing that there's just, and there's always those things that I feel like I always feel watched, like almost always. A lot of the time I feel like I'm being watched. And yeah, I could just tell that it's like one of those creatures. I don't know. What do I know? I'm just saying that I saw that shit. And yeah, you know, there's like other little things here and there, but like I think that's the main shit that I've witnessed. That's like super fucking weird. I don't think there's anything else. Yeah, just a lot of weird shit with people too. I'll bring those in as well. Like I noticed like homeless people in particular, the really like crazy ones, quote unquote, they like know shit that they're not supposed to know. And like they're like prophetic and shit, you know? Prophetic, whatever. Like there's this one time where I was like at the height of my meditation craziness, and this lady, I was wearing a red scarf, and this homeless lady I was sitting next to just was just doing her thing, just looking through her purse, and then all of a sudden she just froze, And I just noticed. I was just like, what the fuck? And then she, she like looked at me and she started saying all this weird shit. She said that like, I don't remember. There was like a whole thing that she said, like weird prophetic shit, like something about the president. I think she said the president does not know what he does. He only wants to lay with his wife. Actually, now that I think about it, Obama was president then, which is why that didn't make any sense. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? But what if it was about Trump? That'd be fucking weird. She was saying that he didn't know what he was doing or something like that. It was fucking weird. She said something like that. This was 2014 when she said this. She said something else that I can't remember. And then she kept saying, you need to save them. And then I was like, what the fuck is this lady talking about? And then she started saying that there was a river of blood and that there were bodies everywhere. And then she just kept saying, you need to save them. You need to save them over and over again. And I was just like, I don't know. And then she was like, I'm so cold. I'm so cold. And I was just like, fuck. So then I like gave her my scarf. And then I gave her the scarf. She was like, thank you. And then she like kind of woke up out of it. And then she just looked at me like I was a random ass person and then got on the bus. Fucking weird. And then I got on the bus too. And I was like looking back to see if she was going to like, she just went back to looking in her purse like a fucking freak. So, shit like that. Just weird. Remember there's this one homeless person who I was walking by. This was at the very end of all this crazy shit when I started kind of sober up. Not literally, I was sober at the time, but kind of started to chill out and like not be sober. And I was walking past this person and they were like, hey, they're waiting for you. And I was like, oh, fuck. But like what was fucked up is I kind of like knew what it meant. You know what I mean? That makes it even more fucked up. It's like this person's being hella weird, but I kind of like get it. Fucked up shit, dude. Yeah. It's a lot of weird shit like that. And, just different things like bumping into people and like having like overwhelming anxiety and then looking at them and seeing that they're freaked out, like different things like that. Just like kind of just being able to like feel other people's emotions and like kind of just driving myself insane because of that. So yeah, I don't know. I like the paranormal, but like at the same time, I kind of had to step away from it because all that shit, it just like, it's really hard to know what's real and what's not. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing that bothers me about it is that, like my mom has like dreams and visions that come true and she's had that forever. She actually, I guess the first paranormal thing that ever happened to me was my mom had a dream that I was going to be born before she even met my dad. My mom looks Mexican, right? She had a dream that she was going to give birth to a baby girl that had red hair and blue eyes, which, I mean, you could say that she got with a guy that's freckled, right? But my dad doesn't have blue eyes and neither does my mom. So there's that. Could just say that she liked freckled people, but she had that dream like a year before she met my dad. And, yeah. And then it came true. So she didn't even want kids. But my point is that like my mom's always had like visions and dreams that came true. And I grew up with that like being okay. Like, that being like normal, like to a certain extent, like that's just God giving you visions. But, you grow up out of Christianity and you're like, okay, like this is crazy people shit. But I mean, there is an essence of it being kind of real too. It's like, there's a lot of things I've seen where I'm like, okay, but like that can't not be real. Like if it's not real, I'm legit crazy, which is just really scary. You just hope that it's real at that point. Cause you're like, fuck. Be one thing if I was on drugs or drunk. I noticed I don't really have any visions or fucking see weird shit when I'm fucked up. I don't, because I'm all good. I feel good. I'm like fucking doing my thing. So I don't know. I just wanted to let that out so that I don't forget it, because I think that's everything. I just don't want to forget that shit, Nothing's happened for a long ass time. Oh, except for, I think the last thing that happened, Jamie probably cast all that shit away. So what happened? This is the last story. So me and Jamie like broke up for like a couple years and then ended up getting back together after all the crazy shit happened with me, right? So after I was like, all right, fuck all this crazy shit. I'm just gonna focus on music and not fucking deal with that, right? Me and Jamie, the first night that we're sleeping together, whatever, you know, we're laying there and we're hanging out, and then we're in the van too, and then there starts being these like this hissing, and it's like really like light at first, you know. And Jamie was like, "What's that?" And I already knew. I was like, "It's nothing. Like, let's just ignore that because I'm done with that shit, you know." But Jamie, you know, came from Christianity too and doesn't fuck with any of that shit. Like, instead of just being like, ignore it, it's like, no, cast that shit away from you and that's it. You know, don't need that shit. So the hissing was getting louder and I just kept being like, just ignore it. And Jamie was like, no, fuck that. And then started yelling and the hissing started getting louder as Jamie yelled and the van started shaking. And it was shaking and there was hissing and Jamie was just yelling like for the shit to leave. And then it finally did after like, I don't know, what do you think, babe, like a minute? It went on for like maybe 30 more seconds. I don't fucking know. It was like Jamie was yelling and then the shaking and the hissing, it stopped. And then we haven't had any shit since, I don't think. There hasn't been anything other than like, you know, I still get like the emotional, like I'm still empathic and like still, you know, there's still that side of things, but like no like entities or anything like that. So anyways, so you know, when shit like that happens, then I'm like, okay, well, I have a fucking witness. Like, it's not just in my head. There was another person there, and a person who doesn't fucking fuck with anything like that, doesn't really believe in ghosts and shit like that. So maybe some of it's real. I don't fucking know, but that's it. That's all I wanted to say.